Hello, and welcome back to Tips and Time Savers. I'm Danny Rocks. I've been filming a series of tutorials in collaboration with my good friend Alan Friedman. Alan is a CPA and partner with the firm Friedman Canterbury and Company based in Hartford, Connecticut. The financial analysis that we have been working on is for a fictitious company known as Big Al's Music. In this case, I've been demonstrating how to create, how to customize, and how to present financial results in an Excel spreadsheet for the inventory status of this company at year end. Before I continue in the series, I realize that several of our viewers really need a brush up. They need a tutorial on the basics of creating and copying formulas and functions in Excel. In Excel, there are three categories of entries for a cell. We can have text entries, we can have numeric entries, and we can also have entries for formulas or functions. A text entry is a label. In this case, we have a text entry called sales, which labels the sales in this field, in this category. A text entry COGS, which is a shorthand for cost of goods sold. A text entry GP dollars, which is a shorthand for gross profit dollars, gross profit percentage, and sales as a percentage of total sales. We also have text entries to identify or to label the products whose sales, cost of goods sold, gross profit dollars, and gross profit analysis we wish to analyze. Alright, over here with the numeric entries, we have either typed in, meaning we've hard coded the values, or possibly we copied and pasted the values from some other system, or possibly we imported these values from some system, for example, a mainframe computer. So we have text labels for descriptions, we have numeric entries, and in this lesson I want to concentrate on formulas and functions. Now, perhaps you took an accounting class many years ago in college. Perhaps you remember that to compute gross profit dollars, the computation is to take sales or revenue minus the cost of goods sold, and that will give you gross profit dollars. Now, in Excel, the way that we make a computation using a formula or a function is that we begin the entry with the equal sign. So all formulas, all functions begin with the equal sign. That is a must. In this case, we want to compute the gross profit dollars for product 1. So in this row, we want to make a cell reference to the sales for product 1. In this case, it's cell B4. We want to use an operator. An operator could be plus for addition, minus in this case for subtraction. It could be a forward slash for division or an asterisk for multiplication. So our operator in this case is the minus sign. We want to subtract from sales the cost of goods sold in order to achieve the result of gross profit dollars. Now, one of the advantages of using a formula rather than hard coding is that perhaps through auditing we realized that the sales for product 1 were not $10,000, rather they were $11,500. So you see that by using the formula remains the same. However, the result of the formula changes based upon the constant values that we're referring to in the formula. Let me use the keyboard shortcut Control Z to undo the last action. We could also click on the left pointing arrow to undo the last action. So with a formula which begins with the equal sign and refers to multiple cells using one or more operators, what we see in the cell is the result of the formula. What's actually stored in Excel is the actual formula. You saw how the result of the formula will change if I change one of the values. For example, changing this to 7,500, you see how that affects the result of the formula. However, the formula remains the same, and I'll use Control Z to undo that. Now, what about the computation for gross profit percent? Here's the label, the text label. Here's a cell that contains a formula that will refer to cells which are a combination of constant values and computed values. So in this case, the gross profit percent is a computation taking the gross profit dollars, which again, remember, we use the formula for this cell, dividing it, this is the operator, the forward slash, by the actual sales, which were a hard-coded or a copied and pasted value. All right, now that we have our formulas, how do we replicate them? In other words, how do we get them copied down to the other cells to describe the gross profit dollars, to describe the gross profit percent for products 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7? Well, probably one of the easiest ways to do that is to select a cell that contains a formula. I either use the keyboard shortcut Control-C, or on the Home tab of the ribbon in Excel 2007, Excel 2010, choose the Copy command. Notice that when you use the Copy command, a running marquee appears around the cell or the range of cells that you wish to copy. And then select either an individual cell or multiple cells. In this case, I'm going to select 2 cells. And then choose either the Paste command or the keyboard shortcut Control-V to paste that formula into your selection. Now, to remove the running marquee, press the Escape key. So now what you see is that the formula, which referred relative to this position cells in columns B and 4 in row 4, as we copy and paste it, now it refers to the cells in the same column, but now adjusted relatively to cells in the row 5. Cells adjusted accordingly or relative to the starting position in row 6. Now, another way that we can replicate a formula, and again, this is a cell that contains a formula, is to use what's called the autofill handle. Now, notice my mouse over here. Notice that it is a large white cross. Notice that as I move it over here into the lower right corner, it becomes a tiny black cross. At this point, click and then simply drag in whichever direction you wish to replicate that formula. And again, making a change in any of the hard-coded values, for example, to turn this into 37,500, notice how that adjusts the formula. Control-Z to undo it. Now, I like to point out a tool that you have available to highlight the cells that contain formulas. In Excel 2007, Excel 2010, simply come over to the Formulas tab, and in the Formula Auditing group, select Show the Formulas. So now it's going to show you the formulas that are in the cells and the references. So you can see, relative to a starting point, when we copied and pasted or auto-filled, how the rows adjusted automatically. Now, this is a toggle. If you like keyboard shortcuts, you can achieve the same result by using this keyboard shortcut, Control plus the tilde key. So now you see how we have displayed the cells that contain formulas, and it is a toggle. Control tilde removes them. Likewise over here, for the gross profit percentage, we can use the autofill, which is my preference. I mean, copy-paste requires several actions. Using autofill, making sure that you move your mouse with the large white cross over here to the lower right corner. When it becomes the little black cross, click and then drag in the direction in which you wish to copy. And again, Control tilde will show you the formulas and the cells that contain constant values, and it is a toggle, Control tilde. All right, now let's talk about functions. A function is a streamlined way to perform a formula. So what we want here is we want to have the sum or the addition of each of the values. So rather than going through and creating a formula to take the product sales for product 1 plus the product sales for product 2 plus the product sales for product 3. No, we don't want to do that. We can streamline that by using a function. The most popular, the most common function is the sum function. Notice that I've selected the active cell to be the cell directly below the range that I wish to sum. Home tab of the ribbon, move over here into the editing group and simply select auto sum. So notice that when you click the auto sum command, it adds the equal sign, it adds the name of the function, in this case sum. It provides a left and a right parentheses, and inside the left and the right parentheses are the arguments. In other words, the individual cells, or in this case the range of cells, starting with B4 colon to indicate the end of the range B10. Let's use Control Enter to accept that. Now we see that we have a sum of these cells, and we can either copy and paste, or we can use our autofill. Move your position of the mouse so that it changes from the large white cross into the small black cross, and then simply copy it across. Likewise, we can do this for the gross profit dollars. With gross profit percentage, notice that what we're doing is we're saying equal to create a calculation, and we're taking the sales for the product and dividing that by the gross profit dollars. So in this case, we really don't want to copy the sum. In this case, what we want to do is we want to again use the autofill handle to continue that formula. So while the formula over here was referencing cells in column D and column B, in row 10, when we used autofill, the references changed to cells in column D, column B, divided by the values in row 11. Alright, now, before I leave this, let me show you another way that we can create a calculation with the keyboard shortcut. In this case, let's select the 3 cell or the 3 columns that we wish to auto sum. The keyboard shortcut that I'm going to use is Alt Enter. So select the cells in which you want to auto sum, and then Alt Enter, and there you have it. There you have a very quick way to automatically enter in the sum of the sales for this column, the sum of the sales for this column, the sum of the sales for this column. Remember that over here what we did is we copied down the formula. Alright, now let me give you an overview of where we are and where we're going to. Up till now, the cells that I've copied and pasted or used autofilled have used what's called relative cell references. This is the default setting for copying and pasting or autofilling cells that contain formulas. Cells adjust when they're copied and pasted. So in other words, an original formula that refers to cells in row 1 will now, when it's copied and pasted or autofilled going down vertically, refer to cells in row 2. Next, we're going to refer to absolute cell references. Alright, let's switch over here and let me come back to the same worksheet. In this case, what I want to do is I want to compute sales for product 1 as a percentage of the total sales. So the formula that I'm going to start off with begins with an equal sign. I'm going to refer to the sales for product 1, and I want to use an operator of division. So that's the /. Now here is the cell that contains a formula, or using a function contains a formula to compute the total sales for all 7 products. If I click OK, well, I probably need to adjust the formatting. So it's giving me the actual percentage, but if I want to present it as something that's more intelligible, Home tab of the ribbon, in the number group, click on the percentage group. So product 1 is a 6% of the total sales for all of the 7 products. Now you think that's fine, that's easy. I have sales for product 1 divided by the total sales. So you'll think, oh, let's take the concepts that Danny already presented. Let's copy it down here, and you see a problem. You've got an error message. Well, now when you double click, you see the problem. You're taking sales for product 2, but you're dividing it by a blank cell because both sides of the argument move down in relative position to the original formula. So in this case, what we want to do in our original formula is we want to freeze the reference to the total sales. The easiest way to do that is to use the F4, the function for key, to put a $ in front of column B, to put a $ in front of column 11, row 11, meaning that as we copy this down, this side of the formula, the reference to the product sales, will adjust relative to its position, but the right side after the division operator will always remain in place. Let's use Control Enter to accept that, and now let's use the autofill handle to move that down. So now you see that we have product 1 is 6% of the total sales, while product 6 sales are, in this case, 20% of total sales, because we use the absolute reference. We froze in place the reference to column B, row 11, for the argument after the operator of division. And I used over here to say what I want to do is I want to make sure, I want to verify that this total adds up to 100%. In this case, I'll simply delete it. So there you've learned the basic elements of creating and then copying formulas and functions in Excel. The difference between relative cell references, which are the default setting, and the cell references adjust automatically when copied, or referring to cells where you want one cell in the formula or the function to remain in place, and you put a $ in front of either the row or the column or both. The easiest way to do that is to use the keyboard shortcut F4. So this is a sample of the lessons that I offer on my DVD-ROM, the 50 Best Tips for Excel 2007. And I'll look for you in the next lesson.